Don't see the new Madoka movie before watching this. Predictions for Walpurgisnacht Rising that every Madoka fan should have on their bingo card. Hello. My friends call me Dyson, but you can call me Dyson. We're friends now. You have no input on this. Today, we are talking about Madoka Magica. If you haven't watched the series, or the Rebellion movie, then I need you to close this tab with the same speed and desperation you would if a parent suddenly walked into the room and you didn't want them to see what you were looking at. Okay, now that we can get started, a quick note on my own credentials on this subject. I have watched the Madoka series and Rebellion movie over 100 times. This is not an overstatement. I can get into the details another time, but just know it's been 15 years since the series came out, so hopefully that claim is not too outlandish to you. But today, we aren't going to go over the entire series. We won't even be going over the trailers, teasers, and key art frames. Instead, we will be focusing on what we can glean from just this one movie poster for Walpurgisnacht Rising. It's a gorgeous piece of art, and it has a lot to say. So, like a beautiful but huge wedding cake, let's slice it up so we can actually consume what we are looking at. Feels a little bad to have bright lines all over the beautiful art, but beauty can be a distraction, so it's necessary. There are a lot of familiar characters here, but let's start with the two newbies. Every magical girl story needs a hapless heroine, and unfortunately, our usual gals of the Holy Quintet are too aware of the things going on in their world to fulfill this role. Enter these two, an earnest-looking green-haired girl and a girl that has a classic tsundere expression. We can assume they will be our hapless heroines because one of them is holding Kyubey. Never a good thing to have that thing around. And so we come to our first prediction, a fairly simple one. These two new girls are being tricked by Kyubey in an attempt to free the Law of Cycles. The incubators are patient, they are conniving. It's impossible to think that they would have given up on their plans after a little setback like the whole universe being rewritten. Let's talk about the girls posing here. Green hair is standing with her hands together as if wishing or praying. She is a person with a hope for a better world. Tsundere girl is sitting with Kyubey in hand. Most notable are her strange hair ornaments, like a divining rod or compass, or some kind of rigid balance to be kept. Last guess would be they represent a critical turning point. In a series that loves cute ribbons and uses a lot of symbology with ribbons, it's quite strange to have a character that has sharp and rigid hair ornaments. Which leads us to our second prediction. These girls have the exact tools for extracting the Law of Cycles from Devil Homura's world. These are the incubators JTF2. The only reason they are hapless is because they are being tricked. Otherwise, I'm going forward with the assumption they are plenty capable. What they do when they find out they have been tricked? A good reason to watch the movie, I'm sure. Now that the newbies are out of the way, the Holy Quintet. The Holy Quintet. Might now be the Holy Sextet, unless Homura has been kicked out for crimes against existence. Admittedly, I don't know the exact line a girl would have to cross to be kicked out of their magical girl group. Regardless, there is a big split in these four members in particular. Mami and Sayaka are outraged and ready to fight. Nagisa is looking at Mami and smiling, overjoyed to be living the life she is living. But Mami is too focused with righteous fury to notice her happiness. Kyoko is not even facing what the others are looking at, her happy, dreamy gaze heavenward and reaching out as if being given something she wants. Unless you count Kyubey, these two are the only ones smiling in the whole picture. All of this speaks to some of the group conflict that the quintet will have to sort out as they go about setting things right. Which leads us to prediction 3. Kyoko is going to try and stop Sayaka from fixing things. This world seems quite enjoyable to her. She has what she wants, friends and love, and who is to say their efforts don't make things worse? Nagisa is a little harder to pin, as her screen time with the others has been limited, but I think even though she looks up to Mami, I think her own morality would drive her to speak up if she thought Mami was doing something too extreme. Now to the last part of this slice. Octavia. While Sayaka is looking at Homura ready to fight, Octavia is looking up and away, sword ready to swing. We'll pin down the exact places Octavia could be looking when we get back to the whole frame, but I find it interesting that while Sayaka is obsessed with conflict with Homura, Octavia is looking at something else, likely what Sayaka sees as the real threat or solution. Which brings us to the girls. There is so much here. This is one of the few times in official art that Madoka looks upset. Not scared or worried, upset. At first I thought she was bemused or hurt, but a quick flip and zoom, and you see how it's more of an outraged expression. The two are kind of posed like the creation of man painting, but Madoka is pointing an accusation and Homura has an expression and hand posture that is begging for forgiveness. They are inverse to each other in both pose and expression. Madoka is bound by the strings of reality, her hand reaching for divinity, but her attention is on Homura. If she stopped focusing on Homura, she could probably reach her divinity no problem, but she obviously can't do that. I think she knows the only way to save Homura is our next prediction. Bringing Homura to godhood is the only way to save her. Homura here is the Homura we know. Now sad and lonely, she reaches for the one light she knows, despite the other's chagrin. Her other hand is behind her back, hiding something. It very much looks like her soul gem there. Homura hides her power from Madoka even as she reaches out for forgiveness. And there is more than one way for Madoka to get her power back. There is something else. Something blue. Pin it down after we talk about the location of this poster, but I did want to mention the red ribbon on Homura's leg, symbolizing her movements and actions are controlled by her connection to, and feelings for, Madoka. On to the location. If you've ever played Dark Souls 3, this landscape looks a lot like the end of the Ring City, a place at the end of time after everything has decayed. There is the shape of some buildings among the desolation, and that's about it. And eventually, even those buildings will decay. Which brings us to Prediction 5. We have been in this charade of a universe for a very long time. There's one more thing about our location in this picture. It's hiding between the girl's hands. This section here is the frame of the top of a soul gem. We are inside of a soul gem. Again. Which we don't get any more context about in this picture. So let's move on to that last point and return to the full picture. The framing. At a quick glance, it looks like a straight-on shot, with our girls framed in conflict and inverse to each other. But there are hints that are seen when we look for a little bit longer. The soul gem frame in the background being up is supported by the rocks floating upwards near the new girls. This being a very low shot apparently, not precisely straight up, but close, with Madoka and Homura actually being at almost the same height, but sideways. This perspective explains the seating array of everyone around. The new girls could probably sit upside down with magic, or they could just be sitting on the edge of this cliff above the others. The quintet is watching the two fall together past them at the edge of the pit. Now we can look at the sightlines. Specifically, Sayaka and Octavia. Sayaka isn't just looking at Homura with disdain, she is specifically looking at Homura's hand behind her back. The blue thing there is the piece of Sayaka that connects her to the law of cycles, a critical part. She's going to be working tirelessly to get that part back. But if Octavia is a part of her, then her attention is split between that and the real enemy or solution. Octavia might be looking at Kyubey, the real problem here. Octavia could also be looking at break them out of the soul gem where they are, like they did in Rebellion, and looking at how far back Octavia is in the frame, this might be more likely. I think Sayaka is going to have some problems with the new girls. She has good reasons to mistrust Kyubey and also doesn't put a lot of faith in righteous justice of magical girls anymore. She might hate what Homura has done, but she doesn't want Kyubey to get what it wants. No one in this picture is facing the same way as Homura, no one is on her side, but another interesting thing is the new girls are upside down like Madoka. They are on the side of the law of cycles, which is also in the top of the frame, just on the right side. And Madoka isn't bringing forward the weapon of her divinity to bear against Homura. She wants to win by using her heart. Even hurt, she still loves Homura, she still understands her, and if the line at the end of the series about seeing all futures is to be believed, then her divine self knew there can be a happy ending for them. Maybe even a suppressed Madoka knows it too. And that's pretty much all the details me and mine could find. We don't get into the second Homura in this picture, but I wanted to stick to just this one poster to make my predictions, so that's all for now. Okay, so there's one more thing not in this poster that I couldn't stop myself from predicting about. A lot of the teasers have a different Homura. She shows up in the art, and several parts of the teasers show this other Homura. This is not the Homura we know. This is more of a diabolical, more driven version of herself. In the original series, it is touched upon that the different versions of Madoka's karmic destiny across the timelines converge as Homura travels the timelines. But what about Homura herself? She just assumes the perspective of this new timeline's Homura? That doesn't make sense with the same rule applied. She has been gathering all the versions into herself, fueling her obsession to save Madoka and beat Walpurgisnacht, which is how we get into our grandfather paradox. Homura as she is would not exist without Walpurgisnacht, or Madoka for that reason, but she already pulled her from divinity. Therefore, I'm going to dust off an old theory. Homura has cast aside weaker versions of herself before, from her early Moe version and again in Rebellion, and technically sorta in the Wraith Arc manga. So therefore, the more evil and selfish and powerful Homura splits from the original we know as Homura and casts her down. We see her fall in the teasers as well, and as someone who has seen the framing of many third act falls, this one is definitely not a third act fall. It's an earlier act fall, before her and the gang rise up and beat eviler Homura, causing the collection of obsessive and selfish versions of Homura to become a witch. The deadliest and most dastardly witch that also closes the loop. Eviler Homura will become Walpurgisnacht, a time-traveling witch that will terrorize history, and that's why the movie is called Walpurgisnacht Rising. Roll fucking credits.